I still remember the exact sound his suitcase made when it hit the hardwood. That dull, smug thud, like it was announcing itself. Like it belonged there. Like he belonged there. "Thanks for the upgrade, babe," he said, grinning as he tossed his sunglasses on the coffee table, like he owned the damn place. He looked so proud of himself. Tailored suit, pristine new shoes, a designer duffel bag practically screaming first class. He stood there like some suave con artist, fresh off a heist, except the thing he stole wasn't jewelry or cash. It was me! Or so he thought. He didn't know it yet, but he'd just walked straight into the final scene of a story I'd been writing in silence. My name is Elena Hart. I'm 34 years old, and I work in cybersecurity. I'm not the type who screams or slams doors. I don't do dramatic ultimatums or public breakdowns. I track patterns. I watch behavior. I follow data. And my husband, he just made the dumbest move of his life. We'd been married 7 years. Derek was the dreamer, the smooth talker, the kind of guy who could convince you a pyramid scheme was just networking with benefits. He always had a plan, and I was always the one making it work. It started small. He'd forget to pay a bill, I'd cover it. He wanted to start a business. I'd help fund it. At first, I told myself this was just part of marriage. Support, compromise, teamwork. But over time, it became one-sided. I was the paycheck, the planner, the backup generator when his lights went out. He was charming. That was his job. And for a while, that was enough. Until it wasn't. The night it really started, was quiet. We'd had dinner. I'd gone upstairs to bed. I remember how normal it all felt, boring even. But at 2:13 a.m., I woke up to the faintest sound, the stairs. Derek always moved like a showman, even when he was trying to be sneaky. Too confident, too loud. He thought I was asleep. And maybe in a different life, I would have rolled over and let it go. But I didn't. I stayed still. I listened. And when he crept back into bed, I knew something was off. He didn't breathe like someone who was sleeping. He was buzzing like a man who just did something bad and thought he got away with it. The next morning, I opened my banking app while drinking coffee. Just a habit, just to check. What I saw made my stomach twist. 5 new transactions. All high ticket, all international, luxury watch, first-class flight, boutique hotel. Total $47,892.34. And the card, it wasn't even my real credit card. It was a dummy account I use for training at work, designed to mimic a real card, while tripping real fraud alerts. Derek had no idea he just stole from a simulation designed to catch criminals. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, it did, but because I knew something he didn't. Every transaction he made triggered a live alert to our internal fraud division. Every alert triggered a compliance check. Every compliance check logged, reported, sent up the chain. He didn't just commit a crime. He committed a case study. And I wasn't about to stop him. When he walked through the door that afternoon, fresh off his upgrade, I let him talk. He bragged about the food on the plane, the service at the hotel, how the driver met him at the gate with his name on a little sign. He talked like a man who just won the lottery, but he didn't notice the shift in me. The silence wasn't passive anymore. I was watching him the way I watch an intruder on a security feed, calm, observant, waiting for the right moment to act. He thought he robbed me. He had no idea what I'd built behind his back. And that was the real upgrade. The problem with someone like Derek is that he makes you doubt yourself long before you ever doubt him. In the beginning, he was magnetic. The kind of guy who made you feel like life should be bigger, louder, more spontaneous, more daring. And me, I was the opposite. Structured, cautious, focused. We balanced each other, I thought. When he quit his job to launch a startup, I didn't flinch. I picked up more hours. When he maxed out his credit card to invest in a business mentor, I consolidated our accounts. When he said, "I just need you to believe in me," okay, I did. Because love means trust, right? But slowly, trust became a cover. He stopped checking in. He'd come home hours late with no explanation. He'd go quiet whenever I asked about money. I wanted to believe he was just figuring it out. I needed to believe that. Because if not, then what was I holding together? He made me feel like I was the problem. Like my questions were criticisms. Like asking for transparency was me micromanaging his freedom. "You're always so intense about money. You think I'm stupid, don't you? Why can't you just let me handle things for once?" And when I'd back off, he'd reward me with charm, with affection, like a treat for behaving. It was subtle, but it worked. I started silencing myself to keep the peace, to keep him from shutting down. Looking back, I was slowly disappearing, one compromise at a time. The moment I saw those charges on the dummy account, it was like a cold slap. It wasn't just betrayal. It was confirmation that the voice in my head, the one I'd buried, had been right all along. Still, I didn't react. I watched. Day after day, I checked the alerts as they rolled in. A $900 dinner in Paris. A shopping spree at a designer store. A luxury massage package at a spa where they serve champagne at check-in. Every transaction was time-stamped, geolocated, categorized. He was painting a perfect trail for prosecution, and he didn't even know it. 2 days in, he left a note on the counter. Taking some time for myself. Don't wait up. I laughed out loud when I read it. He thought he was slick. He thought I'd just wait. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I was gathering. That same morning, I called Chloe. "You're not going to believe this," I said, pacing my office. "I already don't," she replied. "Start from the top." When I told her about the dummy card, how Derek had stolen from the one account designed to trigger federal protocols, she went silent. Then, this might be the smartest, unintentional confession I've ever heard of. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and watched Derek's Instagram story. He was on a rooftop bar in Paris. Caption leveling up. Let the haters watch. I screenshotted it. Sent it to Chloe. She replied with one word gold. By day 3, Agent Keller called. He was the assigned investigator for our fraud division's government handoff. His voice was clipped but kind. "We flagged significant unauthorized transactions tied to a corporate test account. Do you know who might be responsible?" I didn't hesitate. "My husband," I said. There was a pause. "Your husband." I laid it all out. What he did. How he accessed the laptop. Why the card existed. I even emailed him the screenshots, the timestamps the note Derek left behind. Keller let out a long exhale. "That's a new one," he muttered. "We'll need a formal statement. But based on what we have, this guy's walking into a legal buzzsaw." I kept waiting to feel something. Anger, sadness, rage. But what I felt most was validation. Like a fog was finally lifting. This wasn't just a bad husband. This was a manipulator who finally slipped up and did it on my turf. He'd always underestimated me, my silence, my patience, my so-called coldness. He never realized that stillness isn't weakness. It's preparation. The night he came back, I was ready. He strutted in like a man who'd just gotten away with something, dropped his bags, kicked off his shoes, threw his jacket over the couch like a teenager. "Paris was insane," he said, walking toward the kitchen. "Seriously, we gotta go together next time. You'd love it." I said nothing, just nodded. Let him keep talking. He opened a bottle of wine, my wine, and poured himself a glass. "You should have told me about that card ages ago. I mean, it's not like you can't afford it." He winked. I smiled, tight, small, contained. "And what made you think that was ever yours to use?" I asked. He shrugged. "Come on, don't be like that. It made me happy." "Isn't that enough?" I stared at him. "You're wearing a $9,000 mistake," I thought. Out loud I said, "Tell me more." And he did. He bragged for 20 minutes about the flights, the food, the women who flirted with him at the hotel bar. I nodded, listened. All while my phone hidden in my lap recorded every word of his confession, every arrogant detail, every dollar he'd just sentenced himself with. When he went to shower, I texted Chloe. "He's back. Ready when you are?" She replied, "Perfect." "I'll alert Keller. Buckle up." I sat on the edge of the bed and watched the steam curl under the bathroom door. He was humming, loudly, badly. So sure he'd pulled something off. So unaware that the house was on fire, and he was still dancing in it. The next morning, Chloe and I met at a coffee shop downtown. I showed her the recording. She played it twice, smiling bigger each time. "This is airtight," she said. "We've got his digital trail financial charges, and now a verbal confession. Keller's prepping the arrest." I felt it then. That first real wave of peace. It wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about finally reclaiming the part of me that kept shrinking to make room for him. The part that believed if I just worked harder, if I loved him more, he'd become someone worthy. But he wasn't. And I was done carrying that hope. The thing about waiting for justice is, it's quiet, not cinematic, not loud. It creeps in slowly through text messages, through legal updates, through a man humming in your shower, while unknowingly counting down to his arrest. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was anxious, because I couldn't stop thinking about how many times I'd ignored the signs, how many times I'd cleaned up his messes, how many times I'd explained away his laziness as bad timing, how many times I let him guilt me into silence, then thanked him when he stopped being cold. I kept replaying it all, the gaslighting, the deflection, the way he used to say, "You're lucky to have someone like me. You'd be bored without me." I used to laugh. God help me, I used to believe it. The next evening, we had dinner together like nothing was wrong. He made pasta badly, overcooked, mushy, way too much salt. But he smiled like a five-star chef as he slid the plate in front of me. "Don't say I never spoil you," he said. I looked at the pasta, then at him. "You ever think about what you'd do if you lost everything I asked?" He blinked, caught off guard. "What's with the doomsday talk?" he asked, chuckling. I shrugged, just wondering. He laughed. I'd bounce back. I always do. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We watched a movie afterward. He kept checking his phone, smiling at texts. I didn't ask who it was. I already knew. I'd found the messages weeks ago, him telling someone named Nicole that I didn't get him, that I was cold and rigid, that he was trapped. That word made my stomach turn. Trapped! As if being supported, housed, and forgiven was some kind of prison. When the knock finally came the next evening, I was standing by the sink drying a wine glass. I turned off the faucet and listened. 3 quick knocks. I opened the door. Agent Keller stood there flanked by 2 uniformed officers. Professional, calm, serious. "Good evening, Ms. Hart," he said. "Is Derek home?" I nodded. "He's right inside." The moment I stepped aside, time slowed down. Derek looked up from the couch, confused. Then alarmed, then pale. "What the hell is this?" he asked, standing up. Agent Keller stepped forward. "Derek Hart, you're under investigation for multiple counts of credit card fraud and unauthorized use of financial assets. We'd like you to come with us for questioning." "What? No, this is a mistake," Derek said, his voice rising. He looked at me, panicked. "Elna, what is this? What did you tell them?" I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I didn't tell them anything, Derek. You did." He gawked at me. "You set me up." "You set yourself up," I said. "I just pressed record." He started to protest, throwing words around like love, loyalty, misunderstanding. But it didn't land. Not anymore. He reached for me as the officers cuffed him. "You're my wife," he pleaded. "You're supposed to stand by me." I tilted my head. "And you were supposed to not steal from me." Guess we're both disappointed. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. And maybe he didn't. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to make him comfortable. I was finally protecting myself. They let him out. The door clicked shut. Silence. Sharp, still stunning silence. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the space where he'd just been. The couch still held the shape of his body. The wine glass he'd been drinking from was half full. His scent, that awful citrusy cologne he loved, lingered in the air. And I felt nothing but relief. No tears, no guilt, no second thoughts. Just air, clean, crisp, breathable air. An hour later, Chloe called. "I'm here with Keller." He's already trying to spin it. "Of course he is. He's claiming you gave him permission to use the card. Said it was a misunderstanding." I laughed. "Is that before or after he bragged about how clever he was?" "Exactly. We've got the financials, the screenshots, and that glorious recording. He doesn't stand a chance." I exhaled. "So what now?" "They're moving forward with formal charges. He's facing multiple counts, federal and state. And the money? Covered. The buyer protection program flagged the purchases. You won't owe a cent." For the first time in weeks, I let myself smile. "Thank you," I whispered. Chloe paused. "No, Elena, you did this. You handled it. Brilliantly." The fallout came fast. Word spread among our circle. He was no longer the charismatic husband with big dreams. He was the guy who got arrested for stealing from his own wife. Nicole gone. The designer goods confiscated. His flights canceled. His bank accounts frozen. He lost everything because he thought I wouldn't notice. Or worse, he thought I'd forgive him, again. A few days later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I played it. It was him. "Elena, please, I need to talk to you. I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just..." Silence. "Then I thought you loved me." I sat there staring at the wall. Phone pressed to my ear. Heart like stone. "I did. God, I did." But the person I loved wasn't real. He was a performance, a mask. The man who stole from me, lied to me, betrayed me. That wasn't someone I could love. Not anymore. I deleted the voicemail. No reply, no closure, no clean ending. Just clarity. A week later, Chloe confirmed the news. He's cutting a deal, pleading guilty, avoiding jail, but only because he's agreeing to full restitution and community service. Credit? Ruined. Reputation? Worse. I took a breath. Felt it settle in my chest like closure. He always wanted the high life, I said. Now he gets to see how the other half lives. Chloe laughed. You're handling this better than most people would? I looked around the apartment mine now. Fully, quiet, peaceful. It's easy, I said. When you finally stop pretending someone deserves you. After Derek was gone, the apartment felt strange. Not empty exactly, just lighter. Like someone had opened a window I didn't know was shut. His things were still here, the shoes by the door, the cologne bottle on the dresser, the half-empty protein powder he never used. But even those felt like props. Leftovers from a performance I was no longer buying tickets to. I started collecting it all. Quietly, bag by bag, drawer by drawer. At first I told myself I was just cleaning. But I knew better. I was erasing a ghost. Chloe came over one afternoon with a folder full of legal documents and a bottle of wine. Ready to finalize the restitution terms, she asked, dropping onto the couch like she owned the place. I handed her a coffee. More than ready. She looked around. It already feels different in here. It is. And it was. I'd started redecorating new throw pillows, warmer lighting artwork that wasn't some generic cityscape he insisted was modern. For the first time in years, the space looked like me, not like a compromise. Chloe flipped through the papers. He'll pay back every cent, no bankruptcy option. They locked it into the deal. Good, I said. But it wasn't really about the money anymore. It was about ownership, not just of the debt of the narrative. I wasn't a victim. I was a witness, a survivor, and now an editor. I got to decide what stayed and what got deleted. There were moments, though, quiet ones, where grief crept in through the cracks. Not for Derek, for the version of my life I thought I had. I'd find myself remembering the early days, him dancing in the kitchen, badly holding a wooden spoon like a microphone. Us on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching bad sci-fi movies. Him rubbing my back when I had a migraine and didn't want to be touched. Were those moments real or just part of the connect? I'd never know. And maybe that was the hardest part. Grieving something you can't even prove existed. But healing, I learned, is quiet work. It's brushing your teeth every morning, even when your body feels hollow. It's buying groceries for one and not hating it. It's going to sleep without double-checking the locks, because you don't feel unsafe anymore. It's watching the sunrise from your balcony and realizing it's the first time you've noticed the light. A month after the arrest, I took a trip. Alone. I didn't tell anyone. I just packed a weekend bag, booked a cabin up north, and drove until the noise of the city disappeared behind me. The cabin was small, but beautiful, all wood and glass, surrounded by trees that whispered secrets when the wind passed through them. I lit a fire, poured a glass of wine, and sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket. And I breathed. Really breathed. No timelines, no tension, no man waiting to be fixed. Just me, whole, enough. That trip changed everything. When I got back, I started making a list of what I wanted, not what I needed to fix. I signed up for a cybersecurity conference I'd been putting off for years. I pitched a side project to my director and got funding for it. I applied for a panel speaking slot, something I never would have had the confidence for when Derek was around. I reconnected with friends I'd slowly drifted from. People who had subtly disappeared when Derek's energy got too heavy. One night, my friend Maya invited me to a game night with her partner and a few others. I almost said no, instinctively. But then I caught myself. I wasn't hiding anymore. So I went, and I laughed, genuinely, loudly. The kind of laugh that lives in your chest for hours after. There were setbacks, of course. One morning, I woke up to an email from Derek. Subject line, please read. It was long, rambling, half apology, half justification. He said he was working on himself, that he realized he had trauma and needed support. He blamed his behavior on childhood issues, on financial stress, on not feeling seen in the marriage. I read it, all of it. Then I closed the tab and blocked the address. Not because I didn't care, because I finally did about myself. A few weeks later, I ran into someone we used to know, a guy from Derek's old gym. He looked surprised to see me. Heard about everything he said carefully. I can't believe he did that to you. I just nodded. Yeah, I can. He looked awkward. He's been not great. Back at his parents'. Can't find steady work. Burned a lot of bridges. I didn't gloat. I didn't even feel much of anything. Just a quiet confirmation that distance gives. When you stop hoping someone will change their downfall, stops being your burden. Work kept getting better. I launched a new program for fraud response simulation based on, ironically, the exact trap Derek fell into. My director joked about naming the module after me. I just smiled. Not everything needs a label. Some victories are better felt than shared. Lauren, one of my closest friends from college, came to visit one weekend. She brought takeout a bottle of wine and her no-filter energy. We sat on the floor of my now clean, Derek-free apartment, eating dumplings straight from the box. So what's next for you? She asked. I thought about it. About how for the first time in years, I wasn't planning around someone else's needs. Honestly, I said, I don't know, and I kinda love that. She grinned. Look at you, untethered. Unbothered, I corrected. To freedom, she said, raising her glass. We clinked. To never settling for someone who makes you smaller. By the time the divorce was finalized, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt complete. Like I'd just finished moving out of a house that had been slowly crumbling for years. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I was just done. Done trying to explain myself. Done hoping someone would change. Done handing out forgiveness, like coupons, buy one betrayal, get another free. One evening, I sat on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker against the sky. I thought about the woman I used to be. The one who made excuses. Who begged for crumbs of affection and called it a meal. The one who silenced herself so he wouldn't raise his voice. And I felt a quiet kind of pride. Because that woman didn't disappear. She evolved. She got smarter, stronger, sharper. She became me. You'd think when someone burns your life down, the ending would be this big dramatic thing, shouting in the rain, courtroom tension, one final confrontation. But that's not how it happened. Not for me. My ending came in fragments. Emails I didn't answer. Stories I overheard. Little glimpses of a man unraveling while I finally exhaled. I stopped checking for updates on Derek. But sometimes they found me. A friend of a friend would mention that he was still living with his parents. Someone from his old startup circle told me he tried pitching a financial literacy app and got laughed out of the room. Apparently, no one wanted fraud tips from a man on probation. The few people who used to defend him, gone silent. Funny how truth moves slower than rumors, but hits harder when it lands. One day I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, sloppy. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was Derek. The letter was messy, like he wrote it in one sitting, and couldn't decide if he wanted to beg or blame. He said he missed me, that he'd changed, that he was in therapy, that he realized he took things for granted, that I was the only person who ever really believed in him. And then he said something that stopped me cold. He wrote, I hope you'll remember the good times. I still do. Sometimes I wonder if we ever had a shot if I hadn't messed it all up. I stared at that line for a long time. And then I did something that surprised me. I smiled. Not because it moved me, but because for the first time, I could read his words and feel absolutely nothing. I didn't respond. I folded the letter once neatly, placed it in a drawer I rarely open. Not out of sentimentality, out of proof. Not for court, for myself. A reminder of who I was, and who I will never be again. 6 months later, my life was unrecognizable in the best way. I'd earned a promotion, moved into a new apartment, higher floor, more windows, more light. I traveled solo to Iceland, learned to make sushi, and started writing again. I said yes to things, not to prove anything, just because I wanted to. Sometimes people ask if I'm dating again. I'm not. Not because I'm afraid, because I'm full. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not building a life around a man. I'm just building. The last time I saw Derek was accidental. I was grabbing coffee downtown before a meeting. He walked in behind me, thinner, paler, more uncertain than I remembered. He saw me, our eyes met. He opened his mouth like he was about to say something. Maybe hi, maybe sorry, maybe some version of, I still miss you. But I didn't stop, didn't pause, didn't flinch. I turned back to the counter and gave the barista my name. When I looked again, he was gone. Just like that. And it felt perfect. Not revenge, not closure, just done. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city looked different now. Not less chaotic, but somehow more mine. I thought about everything that happened. The betrayal, the theft, the lies. The way I kept shrinking to make room for him. And then I thought about the moment he walked through our door, grinning like a man who won the lottery, not realizing he'd just swiped a credit card tied to federal fraud detection. That was the last time he ever had power over me. He thought he was clever, but he forgot who I was. I don't raise my voice, I raise evidence. Some people ask why I didn't go scorched earth, why I didn't drag him harder online, why I didn't press for prison time. The truth, he did that to himself. All I had to do was stop protecting him. That was the real revenge. Not rage, not revenge porn, not court battles on TikTok. Just truth. Truth and silence. Sometimes I think about the version of me from a year ago. The woman who checked the bank app every morning because she didn't trust her partner. The one who worked late to cover his expenses. The one who second-guessed herself every time she asked a hard question and got labeled controlling. I want to hug her. Tell her she's not crazy. Tell her she's not too much. Tell her the quiet part of her, the one she kept silencing, is the part that's going to save her. I don't miss Derek. I miss the version of myself I had to bury to keep him comfortable. But now she's back, and she doesn't ask for space anymore. She takes it. He laughed when he left. I smiled when he got arrested. Turns out the best revenge isn't screaming. It's surviving and letting them watch you do it better without them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't fight louder. It's step back and let the truth speak for you. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I let the facts stack themselves and walked away with everything he thought I needed him for. He lost his freedom chasing a lie. I found mine by finally trusting what I already knew. So if someone steals from you your peace, your trust, your voice, would you stay silent or turn the silence into strategy?